If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I'm joined by a special guest. This week it is Steph Walker-Vass, and she is the boss lady of the agency. We'll come to Steph in a second. Why should you be watching this show? Well, the British are obsessed with the property market. Whenever the Land Registry chuck out some data, it's all over the front pages of the newspapers. But that's from sales that took place 8, 9, 10 months ago. Halifax and Nationwide, they publish stats, front page newspaper. Again, that's sales from 2 or 3 months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, the Stat Show looks at last week. So therefore, if you want to know what's happening to house prices, the direction of the property market, then this is the show for you. The show itself lasts approximately 1 hour. The first half of the show always looks at the UK property market, where Steph and myself will deep dive and have a look at what's happening. And then the second half is where we go even deeper and we look at a town or a city and really look at the estate and letting agents in that town and see who's performing best. This week, we're going to Watford. Now, if you're from Watford, this is going to be must-see viewing. However, if you're not from Watford, but you suffer from the following things as estate agents: losing listings to cheap fees, not being called out to enough valuations, overvaluing by your competitors, then this bit of kit that we're going to be using live is the same bit of kit that you can buy yourself, and you can prove that you are a better estate agent. You get more money for the property, you sell the houses quicker, and your chances of actually selling are much higher than the competitors. Of course, that's all dependent on you actually being the better estate agent you think you are. But we'll be looking at Watford, and there'll be some winners, there'll be some losers, and there'll be some people in between. This week, I'm joined by Steph. Steph is the co-founder and boss lady of the Agency UK, which is a self-employed estate agency model. What Steph doesn't know isn't worth talking about. She calls a spade an effing shovel, and she doesn't hold back when it comes to her social media. She's very Marmite, and some people love her and the other people need shooting. So without further ado, thanks for joining us this week, Steph. I think this will be your 10th or 11th outing on the show. You always offer great value and insight. And thanks for joining us. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, we've been doing this every week for the last 3 years. And thank you for joining us, Steph. Hope you're well.
Be here, but hang on a second. Who doesn't like me? Sorry, wasn't aware of that.
Well, probably area managers of corporate estate agents. Okay. And also the supermarkets that sell the prosecco for £6 a bottle, obviously on special, 2 for a tenner. When you go around with the area managers award, okay. But anyway, without further ado, let us crack on. We're looking at week 31, Steph. Can you believe it?
Oh my God.
It'll be the C word soon, Christmas. Week 31 is Monday, the 4th of August, all the way through to include Sunday, the 10th of August. And we will be comparing week 31 with other week 31s, and we'll be comparing the year-to-date figures as well. So without any further ado, let us go and have a look at those stats. For anyone that's not watched the show before, what normally happens here is that I just spend a minute or so with the raw figures, and then we go over to the special guest. As I said, this week is Steph, and we will have a look at what's happening with the stats. So this week we are on 32,000 listings for the week, which just compared to previous weeks. Last week it was 33,600, and the week before 33,000 exactly. So you can see this, and this year is the white line. Year to date, we are on 1.137 million listings, which is 12% higher than the 9-year average, 3.7% ahead of last year, and 7% ahead of 17, 18, and 19. The average price of a property coming on the market is £400,000. Steph, thoughts on listings?
Well, I think we're in a good position in that we've probably caught up with the lack of inventory that we've had in several markets over the last couple of years. But as ever, and as we've been saying all of this year, this means that estate agents need to start doing a good job, being really, really realistic with their sellers and, actually listing stuff to put it in your pipeline, not just to sit there as a vanity listing.
Well, that my new phrase of the summer is estate agents. If estate agents want the listing more than the homeowner wants the sale, you're buggered. Obviously not that bad, but yeah. And there,
Listings for show, completions for dough. Come on.
hey, we like that one. We'll Joe, that's senior. Get that trademarked before the end of the show. Here is the number of properties for sale. And as I said, we're over the three-quarter million mark. What this is the number of properties that were for sale at the midnight of the 31st of July going through to the 1st of August. And each yellow line is the corresponding end of July going into August. So we can compare apples with apples. Let's just remind ourselves, and I say this every week in the show, that figure was up at 1.3 million in 2008, sorry, which was the bad year for the property market. Because again, the reason house prices dropped in 2008, there was an excess of supply and a curtailment of demand because mortgages were hard to come by, and that's what caused house prices to drop. So yes, the numbers on stock levels are higher than they were pre-COVID levels, but again, the market seems to be doing okay. Let's bring it back. Anything else on listings before we move on?
No, I think that's to be expected.
Okay, again, let's just remind ourselves that the average asking price of a property coming on the market this week is 400,000. We'll get to that in a second. Let's move on and look at price reductions. So price reductions, 21,814 off three-quarters of a million properties for sale, which works out that we are reducing 14.1% of the houses that we're putting onto the market. The average asking price of a property that has being reduced is 385. Just remind ourselves that the average price of a property coming on is 400. So therefore, the lower price properties are having a more on what being reduced, which is pretty standard. So what's happening there? I mean, and again, isn't it interesting that the higher price properties have a lower chance of selling? There you go. Isn't that interesting? Anything on price reductions before we move over to sales?
Well, I think you've got two ways to spin this as an agent now. If you have overvalued, you can be going into your clients, not losing them to another agent and saying, look, reductions are par for the course in the current market. Let's take it now, get ahead of the curve, sort of explain yourself away that way. Or, for all of those new seller advice meetings or valuations, if that's what you still call them, all of those market appraisals that you're going out to, I think it's about that pricing for precision and saying to people, one in three, two in three homes are going to find themselves at the point of a price reduction. So do you want to do that? Do you want that to be the conversation we're going to be having in 2, 4, 6 weeks' time? Or should we price now where the buyers are and try and drive that price up and get yourself a little bit more quicker?
Indeed, I was looking at some stats which I should be publishing in the next few weeks about the chances of a property if it's overvalued. And again, anecdotally, we all know that if the property is overpriced, the chances of it selling are much lower. But it will blow your mind when we do release those sort of stats, the direct link between overvaluing and actually getting the house sold or not. And again, let's just remind ourselves of a very famous stat that we use most weeks on the show is this. If a property sells within 25 days, which I think means that it's properly priced, the chances of that sale then subsequently getting through to exchange and completion is near as damn it 19 out of 20. It's 94%. If your property's been on the market more than 100 days and the house does then sell, the chances of that sale then actually getting through to exchange and completion come all the way down from 94%, 19 out of 20, to just over 1 in 2, which is 56%.
Wow.
That's 11 out of 20. So you can go from 19 out of 20 to 11 out of 20. It's scary, scary stuff. And again, remember, if you're addicted to getting the listing more than the homeowner wants to sell the house, you could solve an awful lot of problems in a estate agency, the number of transaction, fee levels, everything, if you just weren't addicted to listings.
Yeah.
Now, again, here's a question, is this. Corporate estate agency probably only takes up about 15% of the UK property market. is it the fault of corporate estate agency with listings, paying bonuses for listings when the main bulk of estate agency isn't corporate estate agents and don't pay listing bonuses?
Look, I think there's just a problem with lots of the conventional setups. So we've got two incumbents in my market. Between them, they've probably got 65% market share. The vast majority of what they both list is overpriced, but they are addicted. And so these are sort of owner operator ran, right? Um, that's the person going out and listing. They've just it just baffles me because why why do you want all this stock that isn't selling? Because then you have to employ more staff. Chances are you're paying crap wages, so your staff are rubbish, and you're just chasing your tail. Like just small, manageable amounts of great listings at really well positioned prices with people that you get on with. That's just like perfect. Why do people want to make crap businesses for themselves? Don't get it.
I've come to the conclusion that a lot of estate agents would rather take on an overvalued property and have their board than have their ego bruised with their competitors' board.
It's just insanity. It's fiscal insanity.
Well, I mean, if I'm feeling a soapbox moment, the soapbox index is rising very slowly, and we're only a few minutes into the show,
I know
Steph.
you've riled me early today.
But it, it's very easy for us to say, Steph, this very, very easy. And someone says, "Well, it's easy for you to say that, but you're not on my front line." And ultimately, I'm of the opinion is this: if you've got enough valuations coming in, you can have the luxury of saying no to people. And if the valuations all come down to your marketing, and again, we will have a look at the agent's marketing in Watford. And I haven't looked yet, but I've got a sneaky feeling most of their marketing is on Facebook is going to be listing, testimonial, listing. That is not going to attract new people to call you out for a free valuation. Will someone says, "Well, should I put my listings on?" Of course, you should put your listings on, but if your social media strategy is just listings, then unless someone actually wants that particular house, they're not going to call you up for a free val, are they?
No, no. I think, some people are really quite scared of giving away their secret sauce, but actually it's when you start to do that that people naturally then gravitate back to you. So yeah, give away market strategy, give away marketing tips, talk about what's actually happening in the marketplace, not just what's listing or selling. Add some value.
Yep. Yep, too right, too right. Right, let's go on to gross sales. And this week, gross sales are at, let me just pull the numbers up, 25,003. We'll just pull that up. There we go. Which compared to last week was 26,9. So we've had a slight drop from last week. But although if you think about it, that was an anomaly. If you were just carrying the normal natural line, the average price of a property selling is 365 year to date. We've got 821,000 properties sold up to contract, which is 7.1% ahead of last year and 14.3% ahead of 17, 18 or 19. Let's just remind ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, is that listings are 7% higher than pre-COVID levels. Sales agreed are 14% higher than pre-COVID. So, that's good. That's good. And as I said, that's it on a week by week basis. The white line being 25, the turquoise line being in 2024. You can see the other colours on there. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, everything just looks fairly healthy. It's not frantic. It's just sort of steady. It's plodding. And again, that all does lean back to that precision pricing in the beginning.
Yes.
And now going and sitting and seeing what you do have on the market. And if you have overvalued to begin with, start to address that now because it isn't frantic. It is very steady. And if you've got a one in two chance of actually selling, you've got to be the agent that puts people out of coin flip territory for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it, it the job of a state agency, the three biggest problems that I said on a Zoom call webinar yesterday is problem one is being called out to the val. Problem two is if you're at the val losing it to the competitors, and problem three is if you get it but you can't sell it. And Out of those three, which of those do you think most estate agents say is the biggest problem? Being called out, losing it, or getting it sold?
I'll
Good.
probably say, oh, I don't know what they'd say actually, because I find that my mindset is so far removed from that
Okay,
of
okay, you're not
professional
normal. So
agent.
that, and I say that that is a compliment, by the way. The vast majority of people say their biggest problem is being called out. And what I would say is this, is that if your marketing strategy is just posting listings or look what we've sold, well, again, you don't see any profession telling people posting that they've done their job. Your knowledge is your leverage. Authority converts faster than adverts, and the one who builds the platforms and talks about the things that are interesting to homeowners, which is what's happening to house prices, what's happening in the locality. Be the digital mayor. Digital means online. Mayor, local important person who talks, who is important, and talk
But
about the
look,
thing.
on this point though, if people's biggest concern is where am I going to get my next listing from, how I'm going to win that, what calling out to the free val, whatever it might be. Actually, look at what you do have on the market though, because guess what? You've done what you perceive to be the hardest part of the job with what you've already got, and surely it's going to be easier to sell what you've already got than try and win something new if that's your biggest problem.
Yeah,
So go back and
because
visit
it's
that
shiny
client.
object syndrome, isn't it? We always want the new. No, sell what you believe I got, because you're only, as an
Absolutely.
instant, you're only selling
Get
one.
back round for a cup of tea and a slice of Battenberg, sit with Mrs. Jones, have a good old natter with her, reposition, re-strategize. Much, much easier to keep that listing than lose it and get
Uh,
another one.
Ladies and gentlemen, anyone watching this, I've got a script on how to get a price reduction, which removes the emotion away from the decision, which is where you are going to win. You have to remove emotion from the decision of a price reduction. So if you text me on the following number, ladies and gentlemen, I will text it back with just a link. It's a bit of a script. I will not never ring you again. I will just send it to you and never send you anything. So it's not a sales ploy. It's not a funnel. And all you need to do is send the word price reduction to the following number: 07950 147 572. Text the word price reduction to 07950 147 572. It's a one-page script which you can either do in an email, but it's best work face to face, or worst case scenario on a Zoom call, and use that. It removes the emotion out of the decision, and it bloody well works. Okay.
Well, I've already just texted you, and I hope I'm not the only person that does it. So there we go.
Well, I hope. Well, you. This is we're recording this on Tuesday, and it'll be out on Friday. So let's move on and look at the average price of a property coming on the market. So again, we've been predicting this for a number of months. The red line is the average asking price of properties coming on, and the blue line, the turquoise line, is the average price of the property going to sale agreed. And the reason that they come together is that everyone in London is on holiday. When I say London, we're talking about W and SW. I jest you not. A little bit of N in there, but mostly W and SW. Okay, that drop is, and I guarantee you, because we had it here, and we will have it here in the first 2 weeks in September when they all come back from Provence. That number will shoot up. It's amazing. As I say it most weeks, it's amazing what London to the stats.
Just put
So there you go. There's the stats in isolation. The same stats. So you've got the greeny, which is the average listing price, and the turquoise, which is the average sale price. Okay. And again, the price, the difference is 9.6. As I said, it always narrows up at this time of year. Okay. The Resi sale through rate. What percentage of your sales stock did you sell last month? The average in UK, 15.37%. Okay. That number tends to go a little bit further. That is slightly regional, but not massively. Okay. Sales fall through. We've had 6,027 sales fall through last week. Just to give you an idea, on 512,000 properties in agents' pipelines. Again, massive numbers there. Again, some of this is, well, conveyances are taking much longer to get a sale through. Yep, it was taking just as long in 17, 18 and 19, ladies and gentlemen. You've got short memories. It's amazing agents do have short memories. We were complaining about conveyancers in 17, 18 and 19, and the average was still between 17 and 19 weeks. Okay, so There's just more in the pipeline. Okay, let's bring it back. The percentage of houses that are so this is the fall throughs as a percentage of list sales. So if we had 100 sales and then 25 sales from the pipeline fell through, 25 expressed as a percentage against 100 is 25%. That's where that number comes from. 24.1, and we applied that's it on a graph you can see here. The spikes are Christmas spikes because the numbers are so low, it does affect it. And the percent, that's the number, and that's the percentage. Yeah, it's just steady as you go, isn't it? I mean, anything
Yeah.
falls a bad fall through. Do you guys at TA, not yeah, TA UK, do you use reservation agreements?
Some of our agents do. I definitely think it's a very interesting concept, and as you've said many times before, the difference in fall through rates for those using resi agreements is just astronomical, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Gazelle. Others are available. Do check them out. But the thing I like about Gazelle with Brian Mansell is that he actually teaches your negs and your valuers how to sell them. Because the biggest thing with anything like this is if you get buy-in but your valuers haven't, then they won't sell it. Because remember, valuers are addicted to the listing, not the sale.
But I think you can start even ahead of that. Think there's lots of solicitors now offering contract ready propositions, so contract
You're
packs
so right.
ready at the point of list. If you go to an older house, are you saying to your seller, get a survey done now? Yes, you might be a couple £100 out of pocket, but why not go into this knowing everything we possibly can and having full transparency so that we can't be caught at cropper later down the line? I just think, you know, we're starting to come into an age where really intelligent and strategic agency is going to be at the forefront. So just think a little bit more, take a little bit more time to prepare. You've only got one entrance to the market.
And remember, ladies, you're so right. Don't if you go in with the attitude that this will stop me getting listings. I'm sorry, that's your ego talking. If you go in with the right mindset and say, right, do you want to sell or not? Because remember, your credibility is judged by the questions that you ask, not by the statements you make.
Yeah.
And homeowners need to choose an estate agent based on the strategy of the agent to get the best price, not by the agent that gives the best price. And that's just, you know, follow some people on social media. Tom Panos is one. There's some in America as well. Just stop watching cat videos, okay? Or in my case, dash out videos, and actually do some, it's scary how many hours a day we spend on this. Why don't we actually use it to our advantage? Anyway, oh, soapbox alert. Whoop,
Yep.
whoop. Right, bring it back, mate. Right, percentage of sales fell through. This is and we always do this month in arrears. What percentage of estate agents' sales pipeline fell through last month, and 5.77% of sales fell through out of the pipeline. So if you're above or below that, then you know whether you need to work on that or not. Let's move on to net sales. So net sales is gross sales less fall throughs, and this week we're on 18,976, so we'll call that 19,000. Last week it was 20,500, and the week before that it was 19,700. So you can see here. So there's a little bit of a dip down there, but it's still in the mix. And again, nothing too bad compared to 23, where it was all down at 15% there. So again, market's doing okay. The gross net sales are at 627,300, which is 5.7% ahead of last year and 10.6% ahead of 17, 18, and 19. And this is the stuff that we're going to get paid on. So 627,000. So these numbers don't include new homes. We're probably going to be ending up in terms of transactional levels of between 1.15 and probably 1.2 million, which is nowhere near as good as it was a few years ago when it was 1.4, but it's better than last year where it was 1.1, just over 1.2, 1.1, 1.1, somewhere around there it was. Not bad, is
Yeah.
it?
No, not bad. Again, solid. And just be having a little think to yourselves about how many completion Fridays you've got left in the year. So, yes, you don't have to move home on a Friday, of course, but traditional, we all do that so that your sellers and buyers have got the weekend to move in and settle and so on and so forth. So, how many completion Fridays are left? And where is that pipeline that you now have? Where is it in that ratio? You're going to have to mention the word Christmas. In fact, I think you've done your sellers a disservice if you haven't already. You should be talking about Christmas in June and July, realistically. Who needs to move? Who wants to move? Where is your pipeline sort of chugging along? There's only
Yeah,
so many completion Fridays left.
yeah, because if you haven't sold it by now, you're not moving in for Christmas. In fact, I think anything
Yeah.
sold in the last 4 or 5 weeks, you're moving in the new year. And
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to sales progression. It's seen as a dirty job or something that gets done by, if I have to, or at the end of the month when the boss is chasing the income for next month. I find it fascinating that those estate agents who actually have dedicated sales progression get the sales through about four weeks quicker.
Makes sense.
Does
Somebody's
that?
on the job.
Okay, some extra stats: gross sales as a percentage of listings and price changes as a percentage of listings. Again, just good to see there. We're on the last run of the first part of the show. That's exchanges versus withdrawals. Just be aware that the July figures are curtailed because we have to wait for the numbers to come through, so they are low. So that will be revised towards the end as we go to the next 2 weeks. Those numbers will pop up. The percentage, though, so far on July, 51.2% of homes that left estate agents' books in July exchanged and completed. The other 48.8% withdrew unsold. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
leave.
you've got to be the estate agent that changes it from a coin flip
I
to
mean,
something solid.
we are going to be going. We're going to go to Watford, and I've had a sneak peek at one of the stats, and the gap between the top and the bottom. Your mouth will cartoon. Honestly, scary as hell. Right. Anyway, well, okay. We've done the properties for sale. We've done the sales pipeline. Again, we showed this last week, but it's always good to see. If you want to know what's going to happen to the land registry, you follow that orange line because that orange line will predict the movement of the land registry figure with a 98% accuracy rate, 5 months in advance. So therefore, in the coming few months, we will have a slight growth in the land registry, getting on towards November and December. Okay, and again, we can just track it. And I haven't shown it this week, but we've tracked the land. We put the land registry on this one and moved it 5 months, and you can see it matches almost perfectly. So again, and not many people follow me on the agree with me on this, but the bottom line is follow the pound per square foot at said agreed. The orange line will tell you what's going to happen to the land registry in 5 months' time. Okay, and we are at the end of the first part of the show. Is there anything, Steph, that you want to say now, or you're going to save it to the end on your soapbox?
No, I will just say, if you're watching this show, have you benchmarked your own stats? Do you have stats for your business that we've just talked about? And go and speak to your sellers. Go and see them in person. It's much easier to sell what you've already got than going to find a new listing.
Wise words, wise words. You're so right. Okay, without further ado, that's the end of the first part of the show. And now let's go to Watford and analyse who is the best estate and letting agent in Watford. Let's go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for this part of the show, we're going to be using a piece of kit called Insight. Insight is one of a number of platforms from the firm 20EA. Insight is like Rightmove Plus on steroids. It goes back 5 years plus the year we are in. The amount of data on it blows Rightmove Plus out of the water. It cross-references and analyzes it. It really is something a little bit special. And if there was a fight on who's the biggest fan, then myself and Steph would have a fight to the death on who.
Definitely. I fancy my chances.
I'd tell you, yeah, good luck, lads. Depends though. If you give me that stare, then you go, oh, no, no. I want to say, just don't get on the wrong side of Steph. That's what I'm going to say. Not that, I have, but I do. Yeah, as I said, straight talking from the posh bit of Liverpool. But you can take the girl out of Liverpool, but you can't take Liverpool out of the girl, can you?
Absolutely.
But anyway, this really is absolutely amazing stuff. Now, you would think that we are on a bit of a it sounds like we're on commission with 20EA. I can guarantee you we're not. The bottom line is this, is that they give me this bit of kit free of charge and on the understanding that I mention it when we talk about it. All the show that you've seen so far, I've been using 20EA stats. And this bit of kit is available in the form that you see it today on various different. There's a free version which only has 3 months worth of data, but it's free for your postcode. And then there is the paid for version, which again doesn't cost much than probably a couple of takeaways a month, if that. I'm not going to mention the figures, and you don't mention my name because I'm not on commission, but it's bloody well should be, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But there's one that allows you to have up to 10 postcodes. There's a regional one, and then there is a national one. We're using the national one, and the only difference between the town and the national is just the geographical reach of your stats. If you're a town-based agent, then you really, you're going to see everything we see. The certain skill set that I have, though, is that I can look at the data and pick out stuff that is relevant to estate agents that will get you more listings and stop you losing listings. So without further ado, let us go and have a look at Watford. The way it works is I ramble and then Steph, you just cut in as always if you see something that looks of interest.
What postcode is Watford?
Let's have a look. So it's a WD postcode and it is W17 to 19, no, W5 and WD 24 and 25. Okay. Now, we didn't include WD40 because it was a bit slippery. Hey!
Oh,
Oh, dear.
dear me.
Okay, so awful. I'll stick to my daytime job of being a property statistician. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So here we go. So we are looking at between the 1st of the 1st, 2020 to the 11th of the 8th, 2025. We're looking at new instructions just at the moment. What I would say, remember, ladies and gentlemen, is that we'll be looking at the sales and fall throughs and price reductions a little bit later. We're just looking at new instructions to start with, and we will do the lettings at the end, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, let us see who. So the average price of a property that's come on the market in the last 5 and a bit years in those postcodes is £486,251. 17,634 properties have come onto the market with an average price of 516. Let's just see actually how many of those 17,000 actually exchanged. 9,000. Okay, so therefore just over just over 1 in 2. Not very good. Let's go and have a look. Now you can see here the number of new instructions coming on and the years across here. So you can see that generally in 2025, the number of listings has been much higher compared to previous years. So listings appear to be on the growth. We will look at that in a bit more detail in a second. But as estate agents do like to compare themselves and measure themselves against their competitors, let's go and have a look. So we start off with Connells. And their price is 408,000, which means if we're using the supermarket analogy, they're more of a Morrison's in terms of the pecking order. I'm not saying you'll like Morrison's. Morrison's is a fantastic, but we're just saying if you're a posh agent, you would be up at Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose, and if you're at the cheaper end. So therefore, there we go. There's Connells, and it clearly shows there that Connell's market share has started. If you look at 2020, 5-6%. And now look at you're at 12 or 13%. We've got the famous Connell sequence spikes, which again are going to be in December. There you go. And there you go. And there you go. So again, you can tell if someone is a Connell secret agent by those Christmas spikes. So looks like you had a cracking 2024, but eased off in 2025. So again, what's happened there, Steph? We don't know.
They're too busy booking mortgage appointments.
That's very naughty for you to say.
Couldn't help it, sorry.
Hey, come on. Let's not blame the staff.
No,
Okay, nothing wrong with that.
no,
It's the guys at the top driving it down. Okay.
100%, totally agree.
Okay, let's go and look at Imagine. Now, Imagine were bought out the back end of last year by Foxtons. Okay, so a chap called
Okay.
Mike used to own Imagine. Looks like their market share was on a slight drift downwards, and picked up. Now, what I would say is this is when someone normally gets bought out, their records stop.
Yeah,
Okay, so that would normally stop at the end of 24. I've got a sneaky feeling that whilst the Imagine brand has gone, some of their web feed is still carrying on the old system. That's what I assume because normally when businesses get bought
yeah.
out, their feed stops. I suspect the feed is carrying on, so I will put a ticket in to that. So what we will be able to have a look at is, you've got Foxtons on here as well. Let's just see how they're
Like
comparing.
that. Mm.
But there might even be a little bit of double counting it. We don't know, but we'll keep an eye on it. So looks like so a slight growth there. Profit and halt. Okay. Looks like you guys had a nice spike. Again, this does happen in a lot of towns because this is our third year of doing this. We do it every week. We pick a different
Yeah.
town. There are some agents, and I don't know whether it's a particular type of software that had a spike in April 2020, which is COVID. Um, your market share does seem to be on a slight downward drift trajectory there.
Mm.
Um,
A much higher price point though, they.
true, true. Okay. Let us look at Clayton's. They too seem to be on a downward trajectory when
Mm.
it comes to market share, 436. Fairfields, slight upward growth from around the 5% to the 6 or 7%. Brown and Merry, looks like you had a bad 22, but slightly picked it up. Gibbs Gillespie, okay, treading water at 3 or 4%. Day, King, and Harrier, you looks like you're having a good 2025. Well done.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Signature Estates, Ralstons, well done, Ralstons. We will just have a quick look. Look, they started in 22, so we will just look at the last year and just see if there's any major changes. It looks like Ralstons are doing well. Warren
Yeah.
Anthony, your move. Purple Bricks,
Oh.
Oaks, Sewell and Gardner, Slades. I thought Sewell and Gardner. Anyway, well, Marshall Vizard, which again I believe were also bought out by Foxtons. There, look, okay. So looks like their feed was turned off in June, as you can see.
Right.
You've got
Yeah.
nothing in July there. EXP, well done.
Good. Well done.
Yeah, well done. Hearts. So we've got Foxtons.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So a jump there in new instructions. So again, I've got a sneaky feeling
Good.
here, the double feed on here. So we've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. I will get the guys and girls at 28 to look at that. I suspect there's some double counting there. Salters, there we go. Okay. Let's just have a look at the upper quartile. Okay. Okay. We'll probably, let's go, I don't know, 800,000, just see what the score is there. Profit and Holt seem to be the daddy agents on that.
Yeah.
Well done. And Day King. So again, that's going
Although
to
that Connell's branch, to be fair, they've still got a nice chunk of that upper end.
not bad, is it?
Hmm.
Not bad at
It's
all.
like a strange market, this.
Yeah, I must admit, because what you tend to find with Connell Sequence offices is that they tread water well, and if you look at most corporates, they are slipping very not not a slow death, but they're just all slipping. It's a very gradual, like glacial slip. But I will give Connell Sequence they are standing still. They're not well, actually a tiny bit of growth, not much. But this particular Connell's office, I'm impressed with the market share. Let's see if it follows through with sales and things like that.
Yeah, I'm interested in this.
Okay. Right. Okay. Let's just see. Let's just put the price back, and let's just go and have a quick look at the most recent stuff and just see who's been moving and shaking since 1st of August 24. And there you go. There's Connell's. Okay, yeah. Again, I don't think the feed's been turned off very
Mm.
much yet. Fairfield's, and I think we saw it was an EXP coming up there. Yep,
Yeah, great.
good stuff.
Love
Okay.
that.
Okay, so it seems to be quite a nice and tight here. Normally I would expect at number 10. Yeah, there's not like one big player at 20%, and it looks like there's a good rump here of that five agents. And Connell seem to number one, but they're not a million miles off. Okay, everyone else in the pack looks like a tough market.
It
Interesting.
looks like a really, really competitive market.
Okay, let's
That's
go.
good fun though. That's the opportunity to really hone your skills and start being extra special.
Indeed, you're so right. Right. Okay. So what we've got on the chart now is the number of properties that are for sale. So again, just have a look that in 2022, 1,106 properties were for sale in Watford, and now it's 1,650. So therefore, you have an almost just over a 55% growth in the number of
Yeah.
properties for sale. Again, great stats that you can use at the free val. When someone says, "Well, I bought it in 21," yeah, well, it's 55% more homes for sale, which means you have to be realistically priced. Okay. Okay, let's just move on and let's get down to nitty gritties. So I'm gonna this is where the true magic happens. Okay, yeah, look, I think there's some double counting with Imagine and Foxtons because looks like their market share has grown in turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so let's have a look. What's happening here? Okay, so I'm gonna move the dates to the 1st of August, 1st of January. Here we go. Okay. I think we need to take the Fox. Right. Okay. Right. We're gonna have to take this with a huge pinch of salt because of
Yeah.
the swap over. So ignore new instructions, ladies and gentlemen. We've already done that, and I want you to ignore sold up the contracts. Okay. This is where the true magic happens. Right. This is where the gold is. Okay. We are looking at, or 20EA stats are looking at what properties left your books. So the property that will only leave an agent's books if it exchanges or withdraws. Right? We agree with that?
Yeah.
So therefore, let's just again, I think we've got a crossover there where Foxtons came in and they've got not the stuff coming in but not going out. Although I would think it would be the other way around, but it's not for me to say, right? We need to look at that. But I'm happy with everyone else's figures. So here we go. So we know that in terms of Imagine that 143 plus 98, which means 241 properties left Imagine's books or their feed in the last since the 1st of Jan 2025, of which 143 of the 241, because it's 143 plus 98, exchanged. So therefore, we can make a statement that Imagine exchange contracts. You had a 59.34% chance of moving home if you put the house on the market with Imagine. Connell's 49, but look at Fairfield's at 79. Huge
Yeah.
applause.
That's fantastic.
That
That's
is amazing.
exceptional. Yeah.
So therefore, if I was Fairfields and going up against the competition, you can say, yeah, you know, against Connell, I'm not criticizing Connell's, but at Connell's, yeah, you have a less than 1 in 2 chance of selling. With me, you have an 8 out of 10 chance of selling.
And
Oh,
and
here's
of
the
course
proof.
the correlation there between them having such a low withdrawal rate because they're actually doing good business with what they list.
Yeah.
People aren't going elsewhere.
Fall through rates, quite just below the national average at 23, but there's some big ones there. Day, King, and Harrier at 38, and Ralston's at 36. Imagine's at 17 and Connell's at 23. That's decent. That's decent.
Mm.
But this if there's one stat that you can judge an estate agent on is did you sell the house or not? And look at the gap. I told you there would be some interesting stats.
Ooh, Christ.
Okay. Salters at 76. It just
this is the strangest one I think I've ever seen. There's
Again,
no,
I mean, again, we've got to take the Foxton's number with a pinch of salt because
yeah.
they've swapped over. Um, but yeah, wow, wow, wow. Okay. So
But again, you look at that Connell's branch and they're the highest on listings, but they are losing 50%, 50% of what the listings withdrawing. And you
yeah,
just
I
think
mean,
that's just a
just
crap
imagine
business model.
If Connells are shifting it, and again, Connells are better than the average at 48.99, which, okay, take that with a pinch of salt. But if Connells are actually shifting it at the sort of rates that Fairfields were, then you would be putting, this number here would be not 118, but would be 150, 160. What we'll now move on now, ladies and gentlemen, is let's look at who is overvaluing. Okay. Because
Let's
this
have a
might
quick
match,
look.
this much might match up. Okay. So what have we got here? A lot of information going on here, ladies and gentlemen. So we're just going to take it, break it down nice and easy and nice and slow. Okay. So every agent who's had an exchange of contracts is in here, and we've just put the ones with the most exchange of contracts at the top, right? And 20A have looked at all of the exchanges that have taken place in the last couple of years. And the first thing that they did is when you put the house on the market, they date stamped the property with the asking price of when you put it on the market and compared it to their AVM, their automated valuation model, a bit like their Valpal figure, against what you put it on for. And of the properties, these are only the properties that you exchange contracts on. How much did you put the house on the market for initially compared to what 20EA thought it was worth? And Connell's 1.88% above the asking, above the AVM figure. And you can go down that list and you can see the sort of numbers that we are talking. Yes, now isn't this interesting? Look, Fairfield only overvalued by 0.57,
Yeah.
and they're 79. Okay.
It's almost like these things are connected, Christopher.
It, Clayton's 1.04, 63.
Yeah.
Okay. Profit and Holt at 63. Let's see where they are. 0.91.
Mm.
Ralston's, let's just see this. 55. Okay. But generally, the trend is those that overvalue get clobbered with the number of the exchange on. Right. What did they then get hit on? How much did they actually sell the house for compared to the original asking price? So therefore, Connell's on average got the price reduction was 5 point, not the price reduction, what the vet property
Yeah.
eventually sold for against the original asking price was 5.58% less. Imagine at 4.13, Foxton's at 2.45, Fairfield's at 3.32. Now, so if you actually want to work it out, you have that number and then you take that percentage off it. But a lot of people don't like its percentages. So therefore, we look at average listing price. So of the 500, if everyone put on a £500,000 house, what would each agent get for it? And you've got the numbers down there.
Yeah.
Okay. Just have a look where you are. And now, if you were an agent and you're not getting a good price, or you are getting a better price than your competitors, you could say, Mrs. Miggins, at Clayton's, I will get you on average on a £500,000 house, 492,000 and a half against my competitors, or only get you 480. Oh, and here's the proof.
This is the one for me that's just so super powerful.
And if what I would say, ladies and gentlemen, is if you do get this bit of kit, then just watch a few shows because the shows are always the same, and basically explain it like I explain it, and you're
Yeah.
on to a winner. But you've got to have the stats that back it up because if
Yeah.
not, you need to get yourself ship shape. Right? Okay. Okay. Let's move on. Who sells the houses the quickest? Well, Foxton's taking 35 days. Okay, again, I've got to, it can't take 44 days from sale agreed to completion. Again, I'm going to say there's a crossover on the fees here because there's no way that they're going to be that sort of level. Not when you look at,
I mean, flipping heck, that'd be the stuff of legends.
yeah, they're not that they're just, I think
They're not.
no, because again, I'm on this every single day. That's not right. Okay. So
No,
I think what we've got here is a slight feed problem. So what I will do is I think there's double counting, and I'll get the 28 boys and girls to have a look at it and clean that up. Yeah, so you can see here who takes longer to sell and who takes longer to get the sale through to completion. Let's just have a quick look at lettings. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, that 1 in 2 houses in Watford are on with open rent.
wow.
Can I just remind you that 51.2% of the homes that open rent put onto the market, the previous time it came on the market was with a high street agent.
It's shocking that.
This is this is a silent if this is the silent killer of estate agency, if lettings agency is open rent. Absolutely. Okay, let's look at Imagine. Okay, so
And it's just crazy when you think about that. You know, everybody says that the wealth in your business is in your lettings book, and you're just letting it leave you.
indeed. So here we go. So I suspect here, because look, that's a massive growth. Remember, Marshall Vizard finished. Let's just have a quick look at Marshall Vizard. So look, there you go.
Yeah.
And again we go to Imagine. That's up in July. There you go. So what's happened here is Marshall Vizard have switched their CRM off because they get the feeds from everywhere. This is what 20A do, and I suspect you can see that is. I can tell you right now that is a feed, and it looks like we've got a double count on the resi sales. So we have to take that with a pinch of salt, because you can see here that I cannot see. Yeah, look, we haven't got Foxtons on here, and that's what they bought them for. Your move. Let's have a look. Wow.
Oof, crikey.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Warren Anthony, Connells, nice and steady. Brown and Merry, Day King, Signature, Belvoir, slight drifting off there, guys. Harry Charles, Fairfields. Looks like quite a lot of them are suffering.
Mm.
Yeah, Clay, well, okay, let's go. Okay, Profit and Holt, Oaks.
Yeah, everyone's having a bag of a time.
Yeah, there ain't much happening though. Most of them are losing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. I think I've seen enough.
Mm.
Not pretty.
Oof. It's a tough old market, Watford.
It is. What I would say, ladies and gentlemen, is this is and my daytime job is helping estate and letting agents, especially letting agents, attract landlords to their letting agency by A, retaining the ones they have, but B, attracting them to their agency. If you are a Watford agent and you want an unfair advantage to attract landlords and retain landlords at your agency, that is actually my daytime job. I use property data and information to attract and retain landlords. I can only work for one agent per town. If you wanted a no obligation chat on how I could help you grow your lettings, and again, unfortunately, it does attract homeowners as well of nice houses. So again, depends if you want those as well. Then do give me a shout. But of course, if you don't need any new listings and you're not worried about losing your lettings, don't ignore me. So my telephone number is 07950 147 572. So one of the reasons why I do this show is that your job as an estate agent is to capture the attention and interest of local homeowners
Yeah.
by talking about stuff that they are interested in, which is, in their instance, house prices and things like that. I've done this show with the wonderful colleague here, Steph, to talk about stuff that you're interested in. It's called content marketing, and therefore if you talk about. Stop talking about yourself. Stop talking about your list. Yeah, put your listings on, but just don't rely on that. Stop posting testimonials. Stop posting pie charts, and start talking about the property market, because that's what everyone is interested in. Because you go to a party and someone's at a barbecue and they find out you're an agent. The first question they ask you is, Steph,
Market. How's the
what's the
market?
market? You are the gatekeepers, the second most interesting topic in the world to the
Yeah.
British, the first being the weather. Talk about the property market and you'll attract people to you. Steph, thank you for your time today. If you come back in about 8 or 9 weeks' time, I'd love to have you back on the show again. You offered great
Always.
value. Thank you for your input. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week for week 32 of the UK Property Market Stat Show. Thanks very much.